The NBA season is 1 week away. We are finally close to being out of this offseason, but with the offseason just 7 days away from being over, I think we have to go to the patented staple of the ending of the offseason, which is the predictions for this upcoming season. Who's going to win it all? Who's going to be your MVP? And different sort of categories. So let's get right into it and talk about the championship. Now, when we talk about this year's championship, I think it's going to be a little bit different, right? Because a team like the Celtics, basically with the injury of Tatum, have sort of packed up their overall squad, right? Like Drew Holiday's gone, Porzingis is gone. Even though it's looking like Tatum might be able to come back this year, even then the question is like, are you really wanting to rush him back? Or are you going to just kind of let Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and company sort of roll along and see how you go? So I think when you have a team like that taken out of the picture in the East, Indiana without Tyrese, I don't think is making much noise. So then that's another big, team, at least in one of the conferences, that has now been, given a major blow. I'm not really sure if a team from the East is really set to win the championship. Let's just look at the other teams at that point who are left. The best remaining team on paper, with everyone injured and whatnot, is the New York Knicks. And I'm going to be real. This should be the Knicks East to win. But because of that, they will most likely not win the East. And who will win it? I have no idea, quite frankly. It's a combination of them, Atlanta, Orlando, Milwaukee, if you really believe in Giannis, Philly. Otherwise, I'm going to be honest. Whoever makes it out the East, I think they're taking that L. So I think our champ is out West. Now, we have not had a repeat champion since the KD Warriors in 2017-2018. So now the question is, does OKC run it back? And do they get the back-to-back championships? When we saw them in the playoffs last year, this team was definitely beatable. Two teams had taken them to 7 games, and quite frankly, the Nuggets and the Pacers had injuries that if those did not happen, I can't guarantee, obviously that's with any team ever, things might have rolled a little differently. We might be talking about a different team trying to defend their title. I think since this team is young, since this team has now gotten over the hurdle at a younger age, now their experience is through the roof. So I do believe that the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to defend their title, and they will most likely repeat. I will say there are 2 teams that I think could knock them out, and that is the Houston Rockets and the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets, because we saw what they did last year when Jokic, quite frankly, played horrible for most of that series. And then I really do believe that Houston, when they're healthy, now obviously Fred is out for the year, they can run a similar defensive disruption to how OKC does it. And that we've seen OKC's offense is not hard to disrupt if you have the personnel. And I think that the Rockets overall have the personnel. And now let's get into the awards. And we're going to start with the biggest one, the MVP. I think the MVP, you're going to have the same top 3 names as you did last year. I think you're going to have SGA, you're going to have Nikola Jokic, and you're going to have Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think Luka, you could see break through. Maybe this is finally the year. But I will say, now that Shai's got that title and he just got his first MVP, if the Oklahoma City Thunder are dominant again, and if SGA is putting up similar numbers to last year, I would be hard-pressed to believe that the voters will not try and ride the wave of the young, up-and-coming guy. Now, obviously, I know SGA is a little bit older, but you get my point. Like, I think the NBA is desperately looking to get that next face, and that might be SGA if they can get it going now. Any other dark horses? I think, honestly, don't be surprised if Jalen Brunson breaks through in that conversation, because they might be a top team in the East. He might put up some crazy numbers, so, voters might go, ooh, big market, already kind of a big name for the playoffs and everything. We can try and get that push out. Victor Wembanyama, because he's Wemby and this team is looking better. If they are a high enough seed, I would not be surprised if they tried to get Wemby one. Again, I think Luka is in that dark horse convo because, again, I think Luka should have already won one. I believe it was that 3rd Jokic MVP, and then Jokic and Shai should have probably, I don't know. You get my point. With LeBron now missing the opening couple of weeks of this season, I wouldn't be surprised if Luka is able to really cement his, place into that conversation. But I think ultimately SGA will end up winning it. Do not be surprised, though, if Giannis comes out with this, because if he basically, with this Bucks team, that quite frankly on paper is not good overall, and he wills them to the top 3-2 seed in the East, and he's averaging what he did last year, I also wouldn't be surprised if voters went, you know what? Quality of team-wise, I mean, this dude's got the worst team of some of these guys we're mentioning, and he's willing them with, you know, this insane season. He might get that award, but I think it's going to end up being SGA. And now we're going to talk about the DPOY. We all know it should be Victor Wembanyama, right? The DPOY is Victor's to lose, quite frankly. But there are some names I'm going to throw out there because you never know. Because unfortunately for Victor, he has been hurt / whatever for the last 2 seasons now. And that has hampered his ability to win the DPOY. I'm going to throw out Amen Thompson. This Rockets team is going to get much more publicity now that Kevin Durant is there. And Amen Thompson was already bringing eyes when it was just Şengün and Jalen Green and Fred VanVleet. I wouldn't be surprised if voters went, this wing, this athletic guy who could basically guard 1 through 4 pretty consistently, he might get those votes. Now, again, I think if Victor is fully healthy and plays the 65 to 70 games, the brother's probably averaging 2 to 3 blocks a game. So it's good for you. But, you know, you got to always throw in the dark horse. So you got Amen Thompson, Evan Mobley, Draymond Green. Those are 3 big ones I'm going to say. My last big, Jaren Jackson Jr. I think if Jaren Jackson Jr. and the Grizzlies are pretty damn good, and if he's doing his thing defensively and, you know, some of these guys get hurt or whatnot, he might sneak into that conversation. So keep an eye out for that. But I think this award is basically Wemby's to lose in terms of health. So Wemby's winning your DPOY, and then we're going to get to Rookie of the Year. Now, Rookie of the Year I think is going to be pretty simple. I think it's going to be Cooper Flag, and I don't really think there's going to be a whole lot of other, names involved. But, again, I got to be fair to, everybody involved. So let me show you any possible other names. I would not be surprised if you saw VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, Dylan Harper, any of those 3 names, right? Now, again, so could someone else on this list break through and get it? Absolutely. I just am not very confident in terms of how that play time and everything is going to go. I genuinely think that if we look at it, obviously, I think this is Coop's award to lose. Again, if he plays anything like he did in college, this guy is going to be a 2-way animal and definitely is already going to be one of my favorite players in the league if he turns out that way, because I love a good 2-way player. I genuinely think that this guy is going to be special, and I think this rookie season is just going to add to it. It feels, obviously he's not as good of a prospect as Victor, but relative to the draft class, it feels as surefire as when Victor came in, right? I'm hard-pressed to find someone else that's going to win the Rookie of the Year. But again, Dylan Harper, VJ Edgecombe, keep an eye out for guys like that. Trey Johnson even, maybe Ace Bailey proves some people wrong. Otherwise, I think it's pretty much up to those guys. The 6th Man of the Year. Now, this one's going to be a little tricky. I think you could see if Norman Powell is the 6th man in Miami, he can, go ahead and try and get his. I would not be surprised if someone from the Thunder ended up coming through and picking that up. I genuinely am not too sure on who this 6th man of the year is going to be. But I am going to say I would probably put my bets on Norman Powell, especially if he is not starting for this Heat team. But again, this is the 6th man of the year. I don't think we're really too, worried about that. Coach of the year. I know, guys, some of these awards people are not the biggest fan of, but there are a couple names that I think could really break through. Now, who won it last year? We had obviously Kenny Atkinson. Then we had Mark Daigneault. Then you had Mike Brown. Now, Ime Udoka has yet to win one, right? It was only finalist once. I would not be surprised if they give Ime this award. Now, there's also the question of, do I think there's anyone else, right? Like on a team, like, for example, JB Bickerstaff almost won it, right, with that Detroit turnaround. Is there another coach that could have a turnaround with a team that can make someone go, ooh, hold on, you might be in that conversation? And the answer for me is I'm not really sure. I think maybe Jason Kidd could get into the running if Dallas looks really good with Kyrie hurt. And like, if AD goes down a little bit and then he's working with Cooper and, these are still NBA players, but you know what I'm saying? Relatively a weaker roster at that point in terms of, where they are health-wise. But I think ultimately this is going to be Ime Udoka's award to lose because, again, I think Houston's going to be really damn good. And if you see a defensive rise from Kevin Durant at an older age and you see that cultural impact from Ime, I think he's going to get his, Coach of the Year nod. Eric Spoelstra, as always, technically could be in that convo. JJ Redick could be in the convo this year if the Lakers come out really strong defensively. Don't be surprised if that new coach for Denver, or I guess returning coach for Denver since the removal of Michael Malone with David Adelman. If David Adelman comes through and the Nuggets look really good, maybe that'll do it. But I wouldn't be too surprised if Ime comes through and wins this. And then an award that could actually be quite a lot of fun, depending on who you ask. Some people think this award has kind of gotten all over the place in terms of what it means. The Most Improved Player Award. I believe, and this is my bias coming out, Matthias Buzelis is going to win the Most Improved Player Award. Do I have any real reason to believe that? I think Matthias has already shown a lot of signs of development. His jumper hasn't been as bad as we thought it was going to be. I mean, he averaged 9, 4, and 1. So if you told me he jumped up to 16, 6, and 4, right? So he basically had an 8-point jump, doubled his rebounds, and quadrupled his assists, and basically could be the guy for this Bulls team going forward. I genuinely think that this guy could come out and stun a lot of people and win that Most Improved Player Award. And then I want to get into the overall standings, not in terms of C by C, but who I think is going to be where. Who I think are the 6 playoff teams for each conference. One of these is much easier than the other. And one of these is going to be extremely difficult. The Eastern Conference: Cleveland, New York, Milwaukee, Orlando, Detroit, Atlanta. Now, are all those 6 teams I think are guaranteed to be those 6 playing teams or playoff teams? The only ones I'm a little hesitant on are Detroit and Atlanta. Then you've got Miami, Boston, Indiana still, Chicago, Toronto, Philly. Now, Embiid is already having some injury concerns, but I think Philly actually might crack into that top 6. So let's say it's Cleveland, New York, Milwaukee, Philly, Detroit, and Orlando are the 6. Then the next 4 in, I would probably say are Atlanta, Miami, Toronto, and I'd probably say Chicago. We'd probably be the 10 seed, maybe the 11th. And I think that Cleveland could be a team to come out of the East this year. But I still don't think if they come up against the Thunder, cut it out. It's Jover. But that's what I would say the East playoff standings are kind of looking like. And then the West, I think, again, I've got about 3 teams I'm very confident are going to be in the top 6. OKC, Houston, Denver. Those are the 3 I'm 100% confident will make those top 6 seedings. I've got both LA teams. So basically, I think the top 5 from last year, now the order might change up to some degree, but I think that top 5 will remain in the top 6. I do think Minnesota actually might pull through. We may see a legitimate repeat of the top 6 seeding. The only teams I think that could look a little worse, the Clippers, right? Because we don't know what's going on with the Kawhi situation in terms of if he's going to play, and then Norman Powell got traded, and you never know, right? The Lakers could start off rough with no LeBron and just Luka. But then I think the next 4 teams get a little tricky because, okay, I think Golden State's in there. Memphis will be in there. I think Dallas could make it in there. And then that last team gets a little tricky to me. San Antonio, Portland, Sacramento. Any of those 3 could be in. If I had to be a betting man and say, okay, that last spot, you got to bet on one, I'm going to say put your money on the Spurs. I think they can make that 10 seed. Now, will they make it out the play-in? That's a whole different bag of worms. But that's not what this is. It's just about who I think will be in that hunt. Who I think come April are going to be in those play-in games to those playoffs, right? I think you're going to see those 10. So again, I think you're going to see overall the top 10 remain somewhat the same. You're going to see San Antonio jump up. You might see the seeding sort of switch up for the West. But I think, again, let me know what you guys think about the seedings and who's making it where. As always, guys, this was Hemps or No Soups. We made it. We're 1 week away from the NBA finally being back. And I'm actually very excited for this season because now there's so much that can go on with these teams. There's no guaranteed team in the East, in my opinion. The West, I think you've got some teams that I would bet a lot of money on, or at least make it the conference finals, or, you know, a really deep second round, right? Like go 6-7 games. But I don't think it's a guarantee OKC comes out. I really don't. If you told me Houston won the West, if you told me Denver won the West, I would not be surprised. But as always, guys, this was Hemps or No Soups. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. What are your predictions? What do you think of my predictions? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Again, this whole channel is meant to have basketball discourse and to grow our knowledge and love of the game. So as always, guys, this was Hemps or No Soups. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Have a beautiful rest of your day, guys. Peace out.